The YouTube live feed has been running for a minute or so now. We'll be getting underway in just about a minute.
Oh, that's on the 10th.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you for the reminder.
Yep.
Public hearing on a zoning map amendment on South 66. I'm gonna have the ordinance too.
Okay. 10, 9, 8. Good evening and welcome to the Defiance City Council meeting for tonight, December 3rd, 2024. Before we get underway, we have Pastor Tim Hacker from Bethel Church here to be our guest and open us up in prayer. Thanks for being our guest this evening, Pastor Hacker.
Thank you for the invite. I know I'm filling in for somebody else, I'm not sure who, but I was really glad to jump on it. I love to pray this time of year prayers of thanksgiving, because we just had Thanksgiving, and I tell our folks it's not Thanksgiving until it's Thanksgiving. If somebody's not giving thanks, then there's no real Thanksgiving. You can have a lot of turkey, but it's not Thanksgiving. And I just want you all to know I appreciate everything you do. This is a pretty nice little town. I say that almost every time I come. But I was thinking especially earlier, just not that long ago, we baptized some people at our church. And, you know, it's really nice to have city water. Because that sulfur water used to smell like hellfire and brimstone. I mean, now, the good news was they knew what they escaped. But nevertheless, it's still, you know, that city water is really nice. And if you ever want to put a sign on the edge of our property, since we're in the city limits, you know, you can extend out there and tell people, advertise that we're part, because we love being part of this community. It's really a great thing. So let me pray. Father God, thank you. Thank you for each one of these people, the part that they play, the debates that they sometimes have, but that are good things to have so that we get everything out and figure out things the best way that we can. Just thank you for their leadership. Guide them, strengthen them, help them, speak to them, Lord. You can do that, and we love it when you do. So just thank you for all the things that they're going to do for our community, and we give you praise for it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. This meeting is called to order. Let the record show that all the members of council are present except for Mr. Waxler. He gave us the heads up the last two meetings that he wouldn't be here this evening. Do we have a motion to excuse him?
So moved. Terry, I'll
Yeah,
second.
Mr. Hancock, second. Mr. Corbett, all in favor of excusing him this evening, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I hope he has safe travels and gets back here for to be with us next week, so he is excused. Would you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I reviewed the index minutes for our last meeting of November 26th of 2024. Do we have a motion to amend or correct the index minutes as they're presented? Without any such motion, I will endorse them. And do we have any liaison meeting reports or requests? And this evening, do we have any comments from council? No? All right. Mayor McCann.
Mr. President, thank you. I just mentioned to Mrs. Sprague earlier today and Mr. O'Donnell that had a voicemail message yesterday from a citizen that had received a letter on the aggregation program that we have here, and he was just confirming that we were with Dynegy, and we are. And then today I received two phone calls on my personal phone, people telemarketing wanting to make me great deals on electricity. So that's going to start, and I don't know whether Mr. O'Donnell or Mrs. Sprague want to add anything to that on how we handle those calls as individuals. I'm getting phone calls, you're gonna start getting phone calls wanting to know what's going on. And so that's what's up.
I'll just add, the contract we're currently in is April of 2024 through December of 2025. Anybody that sends me a call, I'm always more than willing to try to, if they want to get in the aggregation, that Josh Felix is extremely helpful. I've had one person that wanted to opt in and didn't go when we started this program. So if you have anybody, just give them my number and I'll get them in the right direction that they want to go.
Okay, that's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mack?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to go over, we have a very busy Christmas weekend coming up. So I wanted to go over just a couple of the events to make sure you were all aware of them. This Friday, Santa is coming to town and we have Flip the Switch. So Santa comes to town approximately 5 p.m. at the library. You can go to the library, see him come across the bridge. Be a great event. Flip the Switch starts at 5:30, but that's down at Triangle Park and in front of the 1918 building. So the actual flipping of the switch will be at 8:30, but the event starts at 5:30. So feel free to go down there.
I heard Kirsty Mack say yesterday, the mechanics on the Flip the Switch are people that go down to Triangle Park will have the ability to put their name in the hat. And right before the flipping the switch, they'll draw a name.
That'll be at 8, the drawing is at 8:15.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah,
Yep.
and that'll determine who gets to flip the switch.
So, yes, correct. There will also be trolley rides through the downtown, starting at Triangle Park. It'll be 5:30 to 8 roughly during the event down there. So that'll be a cool event. Then Saturday morning, be on the lookout. The Cookie Crumble will be in downtown. It's like the chocolate walk, but for kids with cookies at all the stores. So we hope to see a lot of people. It's a sold out event, wandering around the downtown. So just mind that as you're driving through the area. Also, the Parade of Heroes starting at noon and ending at the State Bank. Then the singing and stringing event at the community auditorium starts Saturday at 2:00. It's a Christmas sing-along on Saturday. So all of those different events at the same time, as you may have noticed down in Kingsbury Park, there was a wonderful donation made to the city. We have an ice skating rink. So if people want to use, or a skating rink, shouldn't say ice, it has some ice on it.
It's called an ice
It's
skating.
called an ice, okay.
It's faux ice.
Kim's the pro.
Synthetic.
So.
There you go.
We have the rink, it's available, it's a free amenity to folks in the city or anywhere, but you have to get online to sign up for a time. You have to reserve a time to get there, we can only allow a certain amount of people on it at once, and so if you go to the city's website, you'll be able to sign up for a time. Really neat event, there's also going to be a big inflatable snow globe for people to take pictures of Defiance Christmas, so some very cool stuff going on out there. Just wanted to make everybody aware of it.
There is a waiver that has to be signed
Correct.
too. So I'm guessing parents can't just drop their kids off there and say, go ice skating. Parents have to be there to sign
Yep.
the waiver.
Is there a place where the general public can see the schedule of the events that are taking place?
I think the DDVB's Facebook page has a lot. I think we share them as well from the city's perspective on our Facebook pages, also on check the websites for community events.
So the Friday and Saturday events should be posted in DDVB.
Yep.
Thank you.
Forgive my ignorance, but what happens when they flip the switch? What does that?
The light
I've
on the
never
big
been-
Christmas tree in front of the 1918 building goes on, and it is the signifying the lighting of the tree in downtown Defiance.
All right.
It's like a Hallmark.
We're doing our very best. Councilman Uresti.
We're trying to get a movie made, Mr. Uresti. That's great.
That's bad.
I have a question. Again, not knowing. People that are going out to skate, do they bring their own? Do they use them from there? Or
We have
special
skates available, but you're also welcome to bring your own. So it's a free event. There are skates there. I was actually just down there this morning. We have Parks Department folks sharpening skates. So every 5 minutes, we're changing skates out, getting them ready. So, and that is again, thanks to a generous donation
made by
Is
folks
there
that
gonna be any hockey or anything like that? Or-
don't know that we'll be getting into hockey matches on there.
That's good. I think we appreciate the donation. I think it's gonna go well with the kids in Defiance and the families. That's great.
That's what you have?
That's what I have, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. O'Donnell?
Nothing at this time, Mr. President.
Ms. Sprague?
I don't have anything.
We do have 4 items of legislation for discussion this evening.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance awarding a professional services contract for the property acquisition for the Ralston Avenue Roundabout project and declaring emergency.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Thank you, Mr. President, and with council's indulgence, I will summarize these next 2 ordinances together for the sake of brevity. They are very similar, and then take your questions on each. The city is receiving large amounts of money for both these projects. For the Ralston Avenue Roundabouts project, it's to the tune of $1.78 million in grant funding through the ODOT Small Cities Congestion Mitigation Program. And then for the Ottawa Avenue Corridor Professional Services Contract, another $1.5 million from the Ohio Department of Transportation Alternatives Program and the ODOT Systemic Safety Program. We're seeing a lot of growth and development in these corridors with housing, commercial development, ProMedica, regional hospital around the Ralston roundabouts, and then just a lot of
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Duncan. You gotta mention Duncan.
Right by Duncan.
how could I forget Duncan? We tend to shy away from specific endorsements of private business.
I heard ProMedica.
Yeah, that's fair game.
Right by Duncan.
But we're equal opportunity for those. And then Ottawa, I mean, it was a project rated very high due to being a low to moderate income area for grant funding, and we wanted to take advantage of that. But the improvements require some right-of-way enhancements that affect adjacent property owners. And because these funds, the source of these funds ultimately are from the federal government, we have to adhere to the Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970, of course. Why wouldn't we? So we had to go through the request for qualifications process to comply with those requirements and ensure that the property owners are fairly compensated for these enhancements and what they're giving up. And the committee selected West Erie Realty Solutions Limited to do the negotiations, and then negotiated a price for the Ralston Avenue project of $113,800, and then for the Ottawa Avenue project was $74,800. And since this is grant money, we're on a timeline to do these improvements. You may recall around this time last year, approving the professional design of these projects. And so we're recommending emergency legislation so that we can stay on the timelines for both.
Mr. Mast?
These dollar amounts are the payment to West Erie Realty. That's their contract price, right?
Correct.
Okay. Do we have any idea on what this acquisition costs are going to be? Is that extraneous to project cost?
We don't know yet. You may recall, probably don't recall because I didn't recall, but council budgeted close to $800,000 last year for the acquisitions, and we don't know. I can't remember the ones that was for Ralston. I can't remember Ottawa what
So
you
we've got
budgeted
an
for.
amount
But
budgeted for in mind.
yeah, the budget amount was higher based on how much property
That's
we
also
decided.
outside of these purchases. Could be outside of the project cost.
Correct.
That'd be right. So there would be an additional.
Yeah, at some point, we come to you probably 2025 with legislation accepting the property with those amounts. We'd have to.
Are these just small pieces of
Yes.
everybody's property along that route, those routes?
Yeah, we did a very similar thing. You may not have been on council yet. We did a very similar thing with the Cleveland, Ottawa roundabouts project. That was also, ultimately, that came from federal funding as well. And so we had to check all those boxes, make sure we follow those statutes.
Mr. Hancock?
To follow along with what Mr. Maston mentioned, do you know the amount or the number of property owners that this may affect in each ordinance?
Yes, so for the Ralston, 18 different property owners for the Ralston Avenue project, and then 14 for the Ottawa Avenue project.
And I'm sure it varies on the size and whatnot as well. Okay.
Mr. Rusty?
No questions, motion to suspend and call.
If we have no further questions, we have a motion to suspend and call.
Second.
Second, Mr. Corbett?
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch? Yes. And Mr. Engel?
Yes.
So for the
Motion to adopt.
motion to adopt,
For
Mr.
the
Mast?
Ralston Avenue.
Yep. I was just about to reiterate that this is for the first ordinance that is being read, which is in regards to the Ralston Avenue roundabout, just to make sure we're all clear. Motion to adopt. And you had a second, Mr. Engel?
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch? Yes. Mr. Engel?
Yes.
And Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Right. With that, this ordinance is adopted.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance awarding a professional service contract for the property acquisitions for Ottawa Avenue corridor improvements and improvement project and declare an emergency.
Anything in addition to state, Mr. O'Donnell?
Almost identical process, the same federal law requirements to make sure that property owners are fairly compensated.
Great. Any additional questions in these regards, Mr. Hancock?
I do have a question. The budget, apparently this is a budgeted line item for 24. Will that continue in 25?
I've got it in both.
Defer to my colleague here.
On Ottawa.
Line 403, 901, 52, 978, 105.
We've got. She's got 130 in for Ottawa,
Yeah.
which is the same amount she had in 23 or 24. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure the city engineer is gonna recommend waiting until 2025 to execute these contracts due to the emergency request, but you have it budgeted just in case.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming both of them are budgeted in.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I was reading.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you have a question, Mr. Corbett?
No further questions, most of it's suspend and call.
We have no other questions. Second motion to something and call.
Yeah.
Second, Mr. Mast?
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
And Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Second, Mrs. Crutch?
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
And Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
And with that, this ordinance is adopted.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of a gas membrane replacement for the water pollution control plant and declare an emergency.
Mr. Mack?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So, council has all obviously been out to our water pollution control facility before, out on the east side of town. If you'll remember correctly, from whenever your last visit was, there's two dome structures right when you first come in. Those are biodigester systems. So, with those systems, there's an internal balloon and an external balloon that protects the internal one. In late September, Mark, is that correct?
Yes.
But around late September, one of the external membranes on one of the tanks tore and collapsed that outer shell that protects the inner shell. So we've spent a lot of time researching, trying to find if we have warranties, trying to find what we have to do to make this work, and working with the company to figure out what went wrong, how we prevent things like this in the future. What we've come up with is it's outside of warranty, but it is, yeah, exactly. So we would still, we still need to get these replaced. That external membrane is what protects that internal balloon from theoretically, leaking out some of the gases that are in there. Everything is safe, everything is fine right now. There are people that use just the internal, but for our purposes, it's recommended that we have that external cover. So we're coming to you asking in an emergency, because of the lead time to get these things made, to get this on the books, so that we can get this taken care of and fixed here in the near future. I brought Mark here because I assumed there would be questions, so our water pollution control superintendent is here. But that's the short of it, so.
Mrs. Crutch?
How long does this membrane last? What is the?
Well, that one was installed in 2018, and we had hoped that we would get 15 to 20 years out of it, and some other communities have gotten. There's one that's been up for 18 years. This is the first one, according to the company, this is the first one that has failed in a short amount of time.
Is there anything else besides the membrane, a different material that would work better?
This is pretty much how the industry is going this way now. What it does is it gives you that's basically methane gas that's stored in that right now. So the outer membrane always stays stationary, and it's filled with just air between the two membranes.
Mm-hmm.
But this membrane will go up and down based on the generation of methane gas. So that gas, we are going to, we have a project in the budget to use that gas in 2025 and stop using natural gas to heat our sludge for the sludge digestion. And we have 100,000 budgeted for a gas scrubber to scrub this gas to make it burnable. And it's possible that looking down the road with this much capacity of gas, maybe we can do something else too with maybe with some electrical generation or something.
As
But
far as the warranty, this one only lasted, what, 6 years? you're thinking?
yes, and the new one, it's actually going to be a thicker membrane. And as Mr. Mack had mentioned, we had been working with the company and basically trying to get their price down. This is not where we started, but this is where we came, I think, to where the company said, that's as low as we're gonna go. And so with this, we get, we're gonna replace both membranes, both this gas membrane and the outer membrane. And the reason for that is we don't wanna put a brand new outer membrane on and have a 5-year-old inner membrane. And then have something go wrong with that, then you'll have to remove the outer membrane to fix the inner membrane. So the two membranes, there's a laser level that sits on the very top that fell off when it collapsed, and then we're gonna replace the air hoses. So this is just for parts and material. This does not include installation, so.
Mr. Corbin?
Well, one of the questions I was gonna ask is, do we know what caused the failure? And I think I heard the answer is no, and we're surprised it happened so quick to us. But how long is the warranty on this system now?
It's only gonna be 3 years, that's all they'll warranty them for.
Now, you said it didn't include the installation, this
Correct.
cost? Do you know what the projected cost is for the installation?
I can tell you the cost they gave us. if everybody's sitting down, did everybody
Okay.
take their art pills today?
I've got my nitro with me, go ahead.
The cost for installation was at least double what I think what they're asking for in the product itself.
$223,190.
Is
We're
the
looking
vor-
to bid out to other companies.
Okay, is the warranty gonna be voided if somebody else does the installation?
No, as a matter of fact, and I have that all in their contract. They will send a representative on site to work with the contractor to install it. We've gotten one quote so far, but we will, obviously we'll have to go out for bid on it. But we've had one, company, give us a quote of $90,000 for installation. You gotta understand, they gotta bring a crane in, set this crane up.
I'm sure it's not easy.
No, so, but 90,000 is a lot different than 223,000. So they were gonna, they're gonna send a whole crew from Wisconsin for a week and, they put a big price out there. And
Cause they didn't wanna do the work probably.
More than likely.
Yeah,
They
that's how
probably
they.
thought if we get it, we're gonna make a ton of money.
Yeah.
If we don't get it.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
So.
Mr. Rusty?
This might have been already answered, but did they determine the failure of what caused it? Was it material? Was it?
One thing they said was the UV breakdown of the material was a lot higher than what they had anticipated. It was already down to 50%, that the material had broken down to 50%, and they said it should have never been that low to begin with. And they've taken several samples and then they asked me to cut more samples out of it and send them to them. And now they're sending some over to Germany to have them tested over there too.
But there wasn't anything that was our fault or the city's fault?
No. As a matter of fact, it's kind of crazy. I had our security cameras installed like a month or two before this happened, and you can watch it on the security camera slowly split and just start dropping. So, no employees around. It happened on a Saturday. I had an operator calling me in a panic.
In fact, Mr. Rusty, they came back and asked for our records because the thought process would be we've been overinflating or underinflating, or we would have been doing something wrong, and the records proved no, we've been operating within perfect tolerances of this product. We've been keeping it within their specs, well within the range of what they say you can do with this product. And so that's why the additional testing is now happening of the product itself.
The best outcome would have been if they would have said, yeah, we'll replace it for free, but.
Yeah, I got one more. Let's go back to the UV breakdown. So we're talking about sunlight on this dome that would cause that problem?
Yeah. So we're going
Should we
with,
cover this somehow with a,
Cover the cover.
well, you can put up
Cover the covers.
a lean-to type shed or something just to cover the top of it to keep the UV rays.
we're going with a thicker mill membrane. They're offering that to us. I was trying to think what that was, but I know I have it in my notes here, but I just have to find it.
Who would have ever thought it's just too sunny here in Northwest Ohio?
Exactly, yeah.
I think
We can look into that.
I thought about some sort of a cantilever
Yeah, just to try to keep.
canopy or something. They'll still fail sometime in the future. It may extend it. So then the question, I think, Mr. Corbett, when I was thinking about it was, all right, then we'd have to remove that shelter to put the new membrane on in the future. And is the cost of doing all that gonna justify?
I don't know, we got pretty smart engineers. We can probably figure out how to make that
We got a
disassemble.
smart finance director too.
That's
shouldn't I?
right.
Might be able to do
There's
something
money
like-
for it.
Like they do for awning or like those sails now they put up to keep sun.
Like
I
in the
understand the
parks.
concern, but we also have several very expensive projects coming up in the IWIP that are involving big
Yeah.
building structures, and so We can ask and look around and see if other
I'm just asking.
places, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
How do you prolong the life so we don't have to go?
We can
through
look
this?
around to see if other communities
The
have
other
done something
smart
like
aleck
that.
answer is you put sunscreen on it, but you know.
Well, there's actually it's not.
Of course,
No, there's
it
probably
costs
a coating.
extra.
It's not unheard of, but they do spray a UV protectant onto the membrane. So,
Sunscreen. I mean, that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it
Any
is.
lotion.
Mr. Engel?
I know you said there was like, what, a 3-year warranty on it?
yeah,
Okay, and they said it was 50% going basically.
yeah.
Is there any way you can go after them to say, so to speak, help out on this next one, since that was basically 50% shot in a short period of time?
We did
That
negotiate them
seemed-
down significantly from what their
'Cause I
original
think they ought to
price
do
of
something
replacement was.
if it was that bad to begin with, and everybody else's has lasted 15, 18, 20 years or whatever. I didn't know if you went after them and said anything or not, so I just think they ought to help out on that, because they even said 50% was more than they were surprised in a short period of time.
Well,
And I
they
don't know if that can be done.
they are very much concerned with the city of Defiance, and I'll tell you why. This project won the state of Ohio's Engineer Excellence Award at the 2024 state conference. And when they found out this happened, they had two guys. They had a guy from Texas and a guy from Wisconsin on our site within 3 days. And they spent a couple of days there just collecting data and data and data. And they are as much concerned about it as we are. And some people jumped ahead and gave us the price of what it would cost if we were just replacing on our own. And then Ryan and I had a meeting with some higher ups in the company, and basically when they got on the phone with us, I think their first words were, "We were authorized to give you a significant reduction." And it came down from about $174,000 is what we were originally looking at, to now we're looking at about 113, I think, for the total here.
So something more can maybe possibly come out of this. Possibility.
I wouldn't want to get anybody's false hopes up. I think they've pretty much given us everything that they're gonna do.
Okay.
The other thing is Perrysburg's currently out for bid on one of these right now. So they wanna make sure, it's right down the road, they wanna make sure this problem.
The company has treated us very well through this process. Initially, there was kind of a scramble to figure out what happened, whose fault was it was. But as we've gone through the process, the company has been very helpful. They've helped us research things. They've given us access to all of the testing that they've done to us. So it's been a very good relationship with the company of the product. So I don't think that we would look towards anything further past this. They did give us a good significant discount on the product for replacement.
And then just one other thing I want to throw out there. Kim doesn't have to do any reappropriations of the budget for this money. We were able to, we saved significant in our chemicals this year, and we saved significant on our sludge this year. And those two things, those savings, which I wanted to say, look, Kim, we did a good job. But
Well, good job, Mark.
Still good job.
But we're gonna use,
Kim.
we're gonna use those savings for this, and we don't have to go back to the bank or reappropriate.
Nice.
Mr. Hancock?
Is the city of Perrysburg interested in an interior inside diaphragm or a membrane that we could unload?
I don't.
Just say no.
Why would they wanna put a used one on there?
Get what we can, right?
One brain?
Do we have any other questions in these regards for Mr.
Thank you, Mark.
Mr. Mast?
No further questions, motion to suspend and call.
Motion suspend and call.
Second.
Second, Mr. Corbett?
Mrs. Crutch,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
And Mr. Math?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt, Mrs. Crutch, second, Mr. Hancock.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
And Mr. Math?
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is adopted. And lastly,
First reading by caption only, an ordinance to make appropriation for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Defiance, Ohio to the period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
Ms. Sprague.
Yes, so the 25 budget, we've started this back in July. It feels like a marathon, but all the hard work from all of you, all the division heads, you know, like Mark, a lot of time and effort, discussions all gets put into this, as you well know, to bring us where we are today. And all that hard work is a good example of what Mark's told us, and saving money in certain areas have helped when there's an emergency like this. So, you know, looking at this budget, I always keep that in the back of my head, that to create a sustainable budget, yet always prepare that things can happen and we need to have a reserve set aside, especially in the special funds like his. But just kind of in summary, I'm just talking general fund dollars. For 2025, our estimated revenues at 14.2 million, with our estimated expenses about 14.3. I looked at cash ending balances for 24. We're about 300 to the positive of what we started the year with. I think it's important to try to sustain a general fund, you know, cash ending balance, especially going into the end of the year. We're going to have supplementals. We've got overtime that we'll need taken care of. Our health insurance has went up, so there's always a few outliers that you have to accommodate for as you get towards the end of the year. And that's really all I have to say. The special funds take care of themselves, but it's been a pleasure to work with everybody on it. I appreciate everyone's opinions and comments and suggestions, and it gets us where we are today.
Mr. Rusty.
Since we first started discussing the budget, I've not had anybody call me, text me, email me on any concerns dealing with the discussion. So I think it's a very good budget. The marathon that we spent several weeks ago discussing everything was well worth it.
Yeah.
And I support this very much.
Thank you, thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Mr. Mast.
I think you've done a great job providing us with a roadmap for next year's city business. I think it's been mentioned here before that these things will all come back around in front of us again for more and further discussion, I'm sure, at some point. But I think it's done a good job, and I think we're ready to go.
Thank you, thanks.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes, and I'd just like to reiterate, thanks for your hard work and everybody that was involved in it. And if there's no further questions, motion to suspend and call.
If there are no further questions, we have a motion to suspend and call. Second, Mr. Uresti.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Math?
Yes.
And Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Engel. Second, Mr. Mast.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Math?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
And Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Thanks again for your work.
Thanks to all of you.
And with that, this ordinance is adopted. Before we consider adjourning for the evening, were there any citizens' concerns or emails that anyone of council may have received? All right, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn for this evening?
So moved, sir.
So moved. Second, Mr. Engel. All those in favor of adjourning for this evening, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Just the one spot.
Yes, sir.
There'll be much opportunity for meetings.
I know.
Didn't that look like a snail to you?
Cause they covered that.
Doesn't that look like a snail to you?
What's that?